Yes, hello and welcome to the Kojo Show. I am your host, Coach Podcast, and today is a special one. Of course, this Sunday we have the North London Derby. Always a big game, always a blockbuster, always a lot of fun, always fiery. Arsenal versus Tottenham. I don't know which one is more down in the dumps. I don't know which one should. Quite frankly, this is could actually be one of the worst derbies in terms of quality, but of course, it's going to be a lot more fun in terms of energy and that. But regardless, I have brought two guests from opposing clubs to come and talk about the derby. Firstly, we have Basil, Arsenal fan Basil. How you doing, bro?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I guess from a North London derby perspective, it should be a fun, entertaining game. But obviously, we've got two clubs who are not doing well so far and probably not in the positions that they want to be in. But nonetheless, it hopefully should still provide some kind of entertainment.
I hope so because you guys have provided loads of entertaining games over the past last few years. I mean, last few years, not even last few years, loads of years, and so
Yeah.
it should be exciting. And of course, on the other side of North London, fan Ash, how you doing, bro?
Yeah, good, bro. Good, bro. Thanks for having me on, man. Thanks for having me on. But yeah, I second that, man. Like, it's one of those where it's always nice to get a derby win. It's always nice to get one over your rivals. But I think at the end of the day, both clubs, I mean, regardless of the result, the bigger picture still needs, there's still a bigger picture and there's massive cracks that need filling for both clubs. So, yeah, it's one of those, like I said, always nice to win, but there's work to be done, man. There's a lot of work to be done.
Indeed, there is a lot of work to be done, but we will start. Let's start with the home side first. Let's start with Arsenal Football Club. I think that'll be the first place to go to. Gonna bring up your lineup from the last game as well. Now, firstly, before we go to the Spurs game, the Arsenal game at Burnley, 1-1-0, Odegaard free kick. A lot of people, when it comes to the Burnley game, are quite nervous. But if you check their record against them since they touched the Premier League in 2009, I think you've absolutely destroyed them. Apart from the one time at the Emirates, they beat you. So, coming out of that game, has that given you any confidence going forward into this game on the weekend?
Not really. With Arsenal, it's still the unknown because when you look at it, it's like you got 3 points against probably two of the worst teams in the league. You probably Burnley and Norwich are probably top 5 worst teams in the league. And sometimes when you want to win those type of games, you want to put down a statement to say, well, this is how we're going to do moving forward. And Arsenal still struggled against Norwich and Burnley. And I don't think for any Arsenal fan that would fill you with much confidence. Now, the reason why I say this is because we scraped 1-0 victories against both teams, and even both teams had opportunities to maybe grab an equaliser against Arsenal. And so you think to yourself, what would happen if Arsenal play some of the better teams? Will they still be able to scrape those 1-0 victories? Nonetheless, you could say, well, at least they've got 6 points under the belt considering how they started. So I don't know about Arsenal. It's still unknown. I don't know what to expect. I mean, I'll go into every game and victories are surprising me. I was surprised to see 1-0 against Norwich. I was even surprised to see 1-0 against Burnley because I wasn't really following the match that closely. I was just checking the results here and there and the scores here and there. And yeah, I was surprised we actually got the victories in those games, especially when I saw the highlights, if I'm being brutally honest.
So with this lineup you had here, obviously Ramsdale is now apparently starting to take the spot over Leno. Tomiyasu has started quite well, to be fair to him. Since that Partey has got over his last recent injury, so he started the game and apparently played quite well as well. That lineup there, is that a lineup that you're convinced with to say that will probably be Arsenal's best 11, considering the options you have?
Considering the options we have, I would probably take Nicolas Pepe out of that style lineup. I don't think he's playing well. Arsenal fans can say all they want. They can defend this guy they want. They can try and hide the bad performances. I do not think that guy's performing well whatsoever. His output is atrocious. In the final third, he still doesn't really know what he's doing. On a personal, I think we're using him because he's got just under 2 years left on his contract. And so is that decision where we spent 72 million on, he's probably on high wages, can we try and get something out of him for that contract renewal? Or maybe if we're looking to sell, maybe him perform to try and get some value out of the player. Because I think Arsenal in the conundrum that way is like, do you continue paying someone who's underperforming high wages to remain at the club? or do you cut your losses and try and sell him at a huge loss? Because I can't even see even any club coming for him for even 20 million, considering his output at Arsenal. His goals, he doesn't score enough
He's on
goals.
140 a week.
Exactly, 140. So it's like even if he's going to another club, people are looking like, well, is he worth 140,000 a week considering his output? Doesn't score enough goals, doesn't provide enough assists, doesn't perform. I mean, he's so in and out of games is unbelievable. He goes missing for large parts of the games, and maybe does one or two things during the game, and that is the highlight that Arsenal fans will show you during the clips and say, "Oh, look, Pepe's coming back." But if you look at it from a holistic point of view in the game, very poor player, very, very poor player. He's probably the only player I would consider dropping from that squad.
Damn. Ash, do you agree with those sentiments? I mean, I know you are a Spurs fan, but I know you are also not biased because you can lay on your club when it needs to be laid on. When you look at Arsenal and Nicolas Pepe, he's obviously come in. Was it
72 million altogether?
Yeah, I think that's correct. Obviously he's unconvinced. A lot of people in England, especially anyway. Do you think it's a time where this season could be his make it or break it sort of season? Where
I think so, yeah, because like he's come in, he obviously didn't hit the ground running in his first season. People again say give him time to adapt. I think last season that was his second season, right? Yeah. So last season he got what 20 something GA, but I think a lot of those came in the Europa League, and no disrespect to that league, but in the group stages of the Europa League, it's not the highest level. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the way I see Pepe, he's a moments guy, innit? Moments. He has these moments of brilliance, and you're like, wow. But like Basil said, he don't do it consistently for the 90 minutes. There's not many games I can recall where he's had standout performances, but there's a lot of games where he'll produce moments. But I think when you're going through it, like Arsenal are going through it, moments players are you don't need moments players. You need moments players when you're at the top. So I call them luxury players. Like Ndombele is another one of them. They're luxury players that once your squad is patterned in all the areas, then you can have them because you've got midfielders who are chipping in with goals and assists, strikers banging, other wingers scoring, defenders defending well, the whole team playing well, everything in flow. Then you can afford these luxury players. But when you're going through it and you're in the mud, these are not the type of players that will take you out of the mud.
So he's one of those unreliable players. Do you think it's a mentality thing with him, or do you think he lacks the quality?
Do you know what? Some players just ain't got it in it. Some players just. I don't want to say it's a mentality thing because I think his mentality might be. I don't know too much about Pepe, but I don't think it is a mentality thing. I do think he generally does try. I just don't think he just has it in him. Some players just don't have it.
Yeah, just like what Ashley said, I think 100%, and I agree with what he says with the likes of him and Ndombele in that kind of bracket. When you have those moments, players, you need a good team where they can contribute here and there, but they're not the main focus. But when you're in the
dogfight, they ain't gonna save you, man.
Exactly. And the issue you've had is that when you pay that kind of price for those players, those clubs have misunderstood what kind of players they are. They're hoping for them to be the main stars, the main attractions, where everything goes through them and they can produce. And they're not that kind of players in the team. And unfortunately, that's what we're getting with the likes of Nicolas Pepe at Arsenal. They bought him in for the price. I think he maybe can contribute 20 plus goals and be the main man at the club to really lift everyone and obviously drive Arsenal to victories. And unfortunately, he's not that type of player.
Fair enough. Another player that I want to highlight quickly before we go to Spurs and some of the players that they had, especially in the previous game, which didn't go too well. Aaron Ramsdale. Now, obviously, when he was linked with the club, and I'm with you on that one, because I'm going to be very honest, I don't really understand what the signing is for in terms of does he improve Arsenal and the goals keeper side? I don't think so, but obviously he started well so far considering his season at Sheffield United and so on. Who do you start in terms of those two? Because Leno last year also had quite a disastrous season. I'm not sure. Where would you go?
It's a funny one because I don't like either of those goalkeepers, but I would preferably start Leno. Now, the reason why I say this is that if you look at Ramsdale's career over Bournemouth and Sheffield United, and this is why I don't understand the Arsenal recruitment as to, what are they looking at? He makes just as much mistakes, goalkeeping errors as Leno does. He's not a good shot stopper, Aaron Ramsdale, which is why I was against the move in the first place. So I didn't understand what we're bringing in, but we're bringing him in once again just to play out from the back. We don't bring goalkeepers in to play out from the back. They need to also save you points. And the issue you have is this. Leno is error prone, so I don't know why we even brought him in the first place, because we saw it during his career at Bayer Leverkusen. But I think he's a better shot stopper. I think Leno will save us more points of the course.
He's a very good shot stopper.
Exactly. Than Ramsdale, which is why I would prefer Leno at the back. I think, once again, the problem we have with Arsenal fans, that I have with Arsenal, is they get carried away after one or two performances. Because after the two matches he played, people are praising him. And I'm like, sorry, he's had two performances against two of the worst teams in the league who are not going to test you that much. But because he's spraying passes from the back, it's sort of, I don't know, the delusion of Arsenal fans is coming out once again. And I'm like, I watched the games, I'm like, he hasn't really done anything. The real test comes when we play some of the tougher teams where now he has to show what he's made of as a goalkeeper. I personally will start Leno over Ramsdale. I still don't understand the Ramsdale signing because I don't think really and truly he's our long-term solution in goal. But only time will tell. Maybe he can prove me wrong and obviously improve as the years go by, but who knows? At the moment, I will probably go for Leno just out of his shot-stopping ability.
Okay, well, to be fair, Ramsdale is 23, so maybe, you're right, maybe it could be a thing where he levels up, but time will tell. Time will tell. Now we have to go to Spurs, and okay, Ash. I'm gonna point it to you like this. So, watching that game in the first half, I think you guys actually played quite well.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But that second half capitulation was horrifying. It was horrific to watch. Firstly, with this lineup, when you saw this lineup, were you happy or were you unconvinced? Give us your reasons why as well.
So when I saw the lineup, the personnel I was somewhat happy about, but it was the way we were shaped up. Now, that formation that's not how it was. The personnel is obviously right, but the way it was a 4, and then it was a 3-2-1. It was like a Christmas tree. So you had Højbjerg holding, right? You had Tanguy on this one side, and you had Dele on the other, right? You had Dele left CM. So Dele was on Reguilon's side, right? Tanguy and Højbjerg would interchange with each other. You know what Tanguy's like. He likes to roam. Then you had Son, Lo Celso, just slightly off Kane. So sometimes it would look like a 4-3-3. But yeah, so that's how it was, like a Christmas tree / 4-3-3 a lot of the for most of the time, right? So when I saw the lineup, personnel-wise, I was happy, but I wasn't happy with where certain players were playing. I wasn't happy where Dele Alli was playing. I think if you're gonna play that kind of a Christmas tree formation, Dele Alli has to be further up the pitch. If anything, Lo Celso should have been the one to be playing left centre mid next to Højbjerg, slightly deeper, and Dele should have been further up front. So
actually, I've got a quick question. What about because I look at that standout, I think it's fine for what you have. What about Eric Dyer playing centre back? Are you content with him still starting there, or would
do you know what? Yeah, I've gunned this guy till I can't gun him no more. But I hate to say it, and it just shows how deep in the mud we are right now. Yeah, he's slowly becoming one of my favourite players in this team because of how he's performing. Yeah. He's fighting. He's defending properly. He's passing properly. He's not making stupid. I think this year I can probably pinpoint 3 or 4 mistakes he's made so far in all the games. For me, him and I'd probably say he's been our best defender over Sanchez. Sanchez also is another one, has impressed me quite well, but I'm still not certain on that guy. But if I was to, Romero's partner for me has to be Dyer. Okay. But yeah, I listen, with the squad we have now, Dyer's got to be playing. He has to be playing. There's no one else that can. Joe Rodon, forget that guy, man. He shouldn't even be at this club.
I was going to ask about him because
He shouldn't be at this club, man. Do you know what he is, bro? He's a ball magnet. He'll see the ball and straight away, ball magnet. No, like the Crystal Palace game for me, and I've been saying this about Joe Rodon for a minute now. The Crystal Palace game showed him out. He has no clue how to defend. He's a penalty box defender. He makes good blocks, throws his body on the line, passion merchant, fist pumping, all that kind of jazz. Yeah, that's what kind of guy he is. Like the Palace game just showed. I don't know if you remember. I think it was a third goal. He had Reguilon tracking his runner. He had Skip coming towards Gallagher, right?
Yeah, I know which one.
Then you see Joe Rodon. He's pointing at Skip to come to cover the angle for Gallagher in case he tried to get a shot across to Lloris's side of the goal on the left. Yeah, he's pointing, making sure Skip's coming. So he's got his man Edouard. As he's pointing at Skip, he just moves across to try and block Gallagher, and he leaves Mendy. He leaves Edouard wide in the open. I'm thinking, bro, you're pointing at Skip. Skip is there. Yeah. And if Skip is not where you want him to be, you have to take that risk because you can't leave your man in the open. You can't take that risk. If Gallagher, if you think he's going to get a shot, let him get a shot. That's what you have to do. You can't leave your man in the open like that. Because then what's going to happen? If Lloris saves the shot from, let's say, argument's sake, Gallagher takes the shot. If Lloris saves it, Joe Rodon is there to clear out if there's a rebound, he's there to clear it out. Schoolboy defender, Joe Rodon.
Yeah, no, I remember that now because now you said that, I was like, okay, cool. I was gonna say, can I really blame him for coming up to the level because he had Mourinho at the time? I don't think Rodon was even on Mourinho's radar whatsoever, but that was a sign that's made. But now that you've mentioned that's actually horrific.
And there was another time, I think this was first half when Dyer just came off, and I know it's hard when you get thrown on the pitch and you got to get to grips with the game very quickly. I know it's hard, but there was one time as well, someone whipped in a ball to Benteke. He controlled it. Tanganga was on him, right? He stuck his leg around him to touch the ball, and then all of a sudden, Joe Rodon just comes and tries to make that tackle. I'm like, bro, you've got a man on you. If Benteke got a touch and turned, you're finished. You're out the game. All it is one through ball and he's in. He does things like that. I just can't deal with, man.
See, Spurs are a bit of a funny team because they won their first three games, right? And I thought that put them in good stead because there was a few of them they didn't really play well in those games, but they got the victories. And normally with Tottenham, the problem I've always seen with Tottenham is that sometimes they have to play well to get victories, and they didn't know how to win matches not playing well. So I thought maybe we might see a mixture of Tottenham maybe winning games while playing well and maybe just grinding that road based upon those first 3 games of the season. And like I said, my biggest issue for me with Tottenham is more their manager. Like on a personal, I like Nuno, but I've never ever been a fan of Nuno's playing style whatsoever. And I've always said that, and obviously him being sacked at Wolves or him leaving Wolves was no surprise to me whatsoever because I felt Wolves could have pushed on a bit and he was holding them back a bit. Because they stabilized, they finished in Europe one season, but the issue is that they weren't a team who kept the ball well. They were a team like if you watch Wolves attack, it was always counter attack. It was always we sit back. No, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you why, Kojo, just quick, and I'll let you know. And the reason why, so what they do is that they counter attack, but even when they counter attack, look at how slowly their midfielders move away from the back four. But when they're counter-attacking, there's about 3 players in the counter-attack, and then the midfield slowly move up. And that's always been my problem, because I'm like, if you're going to do that, attack as a unit. And the reason why is because, first and foremost, he always wants to protect the defence. Now, that's all good and well, but you need to mix it up a bit. And I don't think he did a lot of that Wolves, and that gave teams the impotence to get on the ball and create a lot of chances at Wolves. And I was thought, that's a bit dangerous, because especially when you go to a bigger team with better players, you can't continue that style of football. And I'm still seeing that in the first few games with Tottenham, where the midfielders are close to the defenders, but when Spurs are counter-attacking, they're moving up very, very slowly because their first mind is that I need to protect the defence. And I'm like, you can't really attack like that, because when the other team get hold of the ball like Chelsea did, it gives us impetus to push players a bit more forward and create chances, because you have to ask yourself, why on earth is Rudiger so far up to score that third goal? And that's because of how Nuno sets up his teams.
Do you know what? Yeah, I couldn't have described him more perfectly than that. Spot on. You look at his teams at Wolves, right? The midfielders don't get forward. How many goals did his midfielders score at Wolves? Hardly any. They don't get forward. Moutinho, Neves, they're ball spraying midfielders. They don't get forward. Like, I look at our midfield and I'm thinking, get forward. One of you, whether it's Ndombele, Lo Celso, one of you get forward. They're static.
Yeah.
And then they're just passing into the front line, whether it's Kane or Son, and whoever's overlapping. And then you're waiting for either Emerson or Reguilon. Bro, another issue, I was looking at Reguilon's heat map last season. I looked at his heat map so far this season. He has barely come out of his own half this season. Under Jose, his heat map, he was probably kind of not in the final third, but in and around the second to third, fifth of the pitch. Yeah? Completely different heat map. And I'm looking at Reguilon, I'm thinking, especially when we played Watford, I'm thinking, get forward. Like, it's these moments where you get forward, one ball into the box. Reguilon got like 6 or 7 assists last season doing it. And this season, when he's not getting forward, it just takes another dimension out of our game, and we just don't know how to attack at the moment.
Can I ask, this is a bit away from Arsenal and Tottenham quickly, but it's just regarding Wolves, because I think this season people are saying that they're playing a bit more of an attacking style. They've had a lot more shots anyway. I think they're quite high in the table for shots.
I think they're third or fourth in the league in terms of shots.
Yeah, for shots attempted anyway in the league. But they're still getting the poor results, and the midfielders are still not progressing. I'm just asking, is it a personal problem, or
it's a bit of both. It's a personal problem in terms of the quality just isn't anymore. They've lost a few players which have unbalanced the teams, and obviously Jimenez, you can tell he's still coming back from the injury that he had. And obviously, they're not as defensively minded. They're not defensively minded as when they were under Nuno. So you can say that they're taking a bit more risk going for, which is leaving them exposed. Whereas they wouldn't have been that much exposed under Nuno, because like I said, he played a back five with the wingers going back, but also the midfielders also covering just in case the wing backs went forward. So I think because they're trying to transition away from the Nuno style, it is leaving them exposed at the back. Whereas under Nuno was make sure we're a solid unit first, and then we can build from there. So I'm not surprised by the results, but at the same time, I do agree with you is that I don't think player-wise it's quite clicking this season under this new manager.
And do you know what I feel about Bruno Lage? Is they should have beaten Man United. They should have beaten Tottenham, right? I think it's a personal problem. They need a better striker. Jimenez, listen, I love the guy, but he's not the same. I mean, I can't remember who their last... Brentford, bro, he was scared. You could see he was hesitant in the air, and that's completely understandable why. But I think it's a personal problem. I think if I was a Wolves fan, and I spoke to some Wolves fans on a Twitter space the other day, and some of them are confident because they know that the way they're playing, they need personnel. They need it, in my opinion. Ruben Neves, people have questions about him, rightly so, especially after that Brentford game. I thought second half he had an absolute howler. They need players. They need another winger. They need another striker. And their back line, come on, bro. Saiss. He should take away his Moroccan citizenship. I ain't claiming that guy. He's shit. Take away that guy's citizenship, bro. He is fucking shit, bro. Yeah. You got Saiss, Cody, I'm not a fan of. Who's the other defender? Bolly's good. Bolly is good, but he don't really play. I think he might be in. There's another guy, Saiss, Cody, and someone else.
They have a youngster. I've forgotten his name. He's like maybe 20.
And then come on, man, Semedo, bro. Like, their defense is just it's non-existent. So I think that's a
class problem, though, because I feel like they have it's speculation. I could be so wrong, but I feel like there is a Portuguese first, everyone else sort of mentality when it comes to transfers. So I
was just about to say that.
No, do you know what? There actually is.
I was just about to say that, Kojo. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're restricting themselves, aren't they?
Yeah, I was about to say that. Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of
Trincao Portuguese.
Who?
Yeah, he's Portuguese. Yeah.
No surprise. No surprise. Is he Mendes? Is he a Mendes client?
Possibly. I'm not
He
sure.
probably is. He probably is, man.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it reminds me of that Newcastle team a few years ago under Pardew, when they tried to buy all the French players. And we saw how bad he got there. Yeah, do you know? But yeah, it's like I said, I don't understand when you restrict yourself to just having a Portuguese contingent at your club.
Bro, that club is George Mendes FC.
Yeah, it's madness. What Wolves are doing is madness because obviously it served them well when they're in the Championship, which meant they can get some of the better players to get out of the Championship into the Premier League.
Yeah,
It
their
served
business
them well
model.
when they were stabilized, but then now it's like expand your horizons a bit.
Their business model is not it, man. It needs to change. But I think that's
What they've now got a record label. So,
what. Sorry.
yeah, Wolves now have a record label.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was announced. I think it was announced yesterday.
That is the most cringiest thing I've ever heard of in my life. A football club as a record label.
Yeah, honestly.
But you know what? Yeah, just to touch on Nuno. So
yeah, go on.
You said it perfectly. I'm not happy with him. And even when we was top of the league, Kojo will tell you. I was negative. I was like, I'm not happy. We're top of the league, but I'm not happy with the performances. Man City, I was happy. I was very happy with that performance, right? Because you're never going to control the game. You're never going to have the most chances. But we bullied them. We had no intention of losing that game. Everyone defended well. Tanganga, Dyer, Sanchez, even Reguilon. Yeah, who in my opinion, I'm starting to ask serious questions of that guy. Yeah, defensively. But my problem was the performances after that. Now, 6 games in, 19th shots on goal. Yeah, sorry, shots GM. Yeah, 17th in goals scored. XG 20th.
I don't associate with that XG stuff.
We are, but no. But it means a lot. What it means is you are the least likeliest team to score a goal. Yeah. Possession 15th. 15th. Successful presses 20th. Percentage of tackles won 19th. Successful take-ons 18th. Progressive carry. These two worry me. Successful take-ons 18th, and then this is the one. Progressive carries 19th in the league. Progressive carry distance, bottom of the league. Like, what did he say? The midfielders, they don't move. Bottom. 15th in aerial duels 1. It's not good, bro. It's not good. And this is, for me, significantly worse than what we was. Under Jose, we never struggled to score goals. We scored like the 4th or 5th highest goals in the league, was it? 4th or 5th highest goals in the league. And we had a certain... The football wasn't pretty, but we had a certain way of playing. When we countered, we knew how to counter. Under this guy, it just... Like I said, from the midfield, I'm thinking, why are you guys not getting forward? Like, even Ryan Mason tweeted it the other day. He's like, we need to encourage these guys in midfield to move forward. Because when your attacking outlet is not giving you what you need, a midfielder getting forward can and usually does make all the difference. And what we saw in the Chelsea game, I want to touch on that now, is on the left-hand side, there was a bit of a passing play going on between Reggie, Son, and Dele, right? And then sometimes Tanguy was drifting in, progressing the ball through that. That was kind of where we was attacking, right? Chelsea had a 2-man midfield, and that's why we bossed them. We controlled the midfield. Christensen loves coming forward, but when he was coming forward, we were isolating their 2 midfielders. Jorginho was having to drop deep, and then when Jorginho drops deep, he then has to spray long balls because there's no one else. He then had to spray long balls, right? The game deaded off when Kante came in. Kante came in the middle. They've now got 3 in the middle. Jorginho didn't have to drop deep. Christensen can just, like Christensen loves to pass to the midfielders, and then there's now triangles all over for Chelsea. It's at that moment where Nuno should have made a change. Maybe not straight away, but when you can see, for me, I saw in the first 5 minutes of the second half, I was like, the game's changing now. And I was like, it's only a matter of time before they score. And you don't have to make a sub, but you either change your personnel. You either get Lo Celso to drop in, or you change your person. You change it to a 3-5-2. You put Son up with Kane, or you make a sub, whichever one it is, right? He made his first sub 6 minutes after the second goal. Now, for me, that's a reactive manager. That's not a proactive manager. And yes, it's Thomas Tuchel. The chances of you outdoing him is little to none, but at least try it. Do you get what I'm saying? There was Skip. For me, the first sub I would have made, I would have kept Dele on for his work rate, but I would have taken off Lo Celso and I would have brought in Skip. because I think Skip defensively is very disciplined, and alongside Højbjerg, I think Chelsea would have found it more difficult because what you could have seen in the second half was they were moving the ball about freely. Kante, Jorginho, they were popping it around, they were having fun, and that's just the signs of a reactive manager versus a proactive manager.
I was going to ask, so I was going to ask about Dele Alli, and what I noticed was he was targeted for the for set pieces, quite frankly. I mean,
yeah, that first goal was his fault, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've noticed it to be a recurring theme. Now, obviously, in the past, he had that sort of beautiful link up with Harry Kane, but also had like a sort of a long distance link up with Alderweireld, although played that long pass, and he'd be the first on it. Excellent first touch and then finish. And in recent years, I think the way Spurs have played with different managers is called for him to be a bit more on the ball, and he's not shown the quality. To the North London derby, and considering how his performances have been, especially on the defensive side, where you are lacking at set pieces, is he a man that you drop?
Do you know what? It's a difficult one. I would personally drop him for the simple. So here's my problem, right? So forget if we want to, we have to take Chelsea game into consideration. But all season, Nuno's kind of played this 4-3-3, like a flat 4-3-3. And he's put Dele on the left-hand side of that. Now, for me, I'm questioning the management because when has Dele ever been controlling, left-sided, or even a centre midfielder? His best role is a centre forward, playing off another striker, playing off Kane. Yeah, that's his best role because he's got the ability. Whether it's making late runs into the box, it's his movement in the final third. It sometimes is a lot of the times. In that 16-17 and 15-16 season was phenomenal. So for that reason, I'm dropping him. Yeah, and I'm going to drop him. And it's a difficult one because I do appreciate his work rate. I really do appreciate it. And I've noticed it considerably. First half against Chelsea, he saved Reguilon like 3 or 4 times. But on the ball, he's not good enough. It's not his position. And it's not going to help him in the long run. So I'd drop him for Bryan Hill. And I'll bring Bryan Hill into the mix. Yeah. So, and I'll change from. I would kind of play a 4-2-3-1, where I'd have Bryan Hill. I'd have Højbjerg and I'll probably against Arsenal. I'll have Højbjerg. It's a difficult one whether I play Ndombele in this game. I'll probably
Hold that thought.
Yeah. So what I would do is I would in the 4-2-3-1 I'd play Gil as the advanced midfielder and I'd take out Dele for that game.
I'll say this quickly about Dele Alli, Kojo. I'll say with the set pieces, 2 things. With the set piece goals, I do feel sorry for him because I don't understand managers these days. Back in the day, in the 2000s and even before then, you usually put your defenders against those who are the biggest aerial threats of the opposing teams. Or sometimes if you couldn't, you match them height for height to make sure that they didn't have that height advantage over players. When I watch certain games these days, I don't understand why people have strikers or midfielders marking defenders who are very good in the air and the most dangerous players when it comes to set pieces. So when I saw Dele Alli, not once, but multiple times marking Thiago Silva, I'm like, it doesn't make sense because Dele has never been that kind of.
But the thing is, then you've got Lukaku and Rudiger. So Dyer and Romero had to take one of the two.
But could you put like Højbjerg on him or something? I don't know. Like Dele Alli's never struck me as being defensively strong aerially.
No, he hasn't. And I'll tell you the truth. That's one of his weaknesses. That's one of his weaknesses. And the funny thing is, when I watched that in slow-mo again, as soon as the ball went in, as it's coming closer to Dele, and Dyer realizes his man is not going to have an involvement in this, Dyer comes straight out and tries his best to try and, because Dyer knew straight away that this could be trouble.
Because he wasn't aware of Thiago Silva's movement whatsoever.
He wasn't.
And then the thing is, like, I think when I watched it, Dele saw him. Yeah, he saw him like that, but then he kind of went like this to look at the ball, and then he didn't even jump. I'm like, bruv, you've got to look at him, watch your man, watch the ball, and go toe to toe with him. If it means clash heads, bro.
Yeah, it didn't work out. And then secondly, I'll say this: the issue, the person I blame for what Dele Alli has become is Pochettino. And the reason why I say this is because what happens that when Dele Alli's probably had one of like the best breakthrough seasons of any individual coming into the league in the Premier League history. Because to come from MK Dons to Tottenham and do what he did during like the first maybe year and a half was incredible. Like his out was amazing. But then the issues that you can see he's best. The issues that under Pochettino, he played well under the system of Pochettino in terms of being close to Kane and playing as a second striker. But I noticed a lot of weaknesses in his game. And I felt that Pochettino did not help to address those. Because actually we knew that he wasn't the greatest passer. In the final third, he can do nice, cute passes and through balls. Yeah. But he wasn't the greatest passer. He wasn't, as Ash said, great at controlling the ball in midfield. You know, and ultimately, I looked at him and I was like, what position is Dele? Because you can't live off being a second striker all the time because managers will come in, you'll play different formation and systems. So I felt he should have adapted to improving his attributes as a midfielder. I'm not saying he has to play midfield, but in terms of the awareness, the passing, the controlling of the ball in tight spaces, the knowing how to move it, the short and the long passing ranges. I looked and I said, if he improves that aspect of the game, he could become a player. But as the years were going by, I could see him he felt so comfortable just being the second striker in the team that I felt that he didn't want to work on anything else. And then when things didn't work out for him and managers came, you could see the weaknesses glaring when we saw different formations, we saw different systems being played. And then there was a conundrum that, well, what do we do with Dele Alli now? And that's where he's found himself.
Do you know what? That's spot on. It's absolutely spot on because when he came, he was 19 years old. So there's a lot of time to develop someone's game, right? And I saw this in the first season. Second season is there were certain games, cup games, Champions League, he would play more deeper, and I'd be like, this ain't it. He's not. He can't pass the ball. And the problem, the problem that we had, and I hate to say it again, but when you're someone like him and you're very limited to playing kind of one position, you, in my opinion, you're a luxury player.
Yeah.
And the reason why he suited us so well back then was because we never had a right winger. We had Son and we had Kane. But we used to play Eriksen on that kind of side. But Eriksen wasn't a winger, so we had Kyle Walker or Kieran Trippier bombing forward, making overlapping runs, right? And then you'd have Wanyama covering the spaces, right? So it almost suited Dele in that system because you're almost playing with two strikers. Then you don't need a right winger. But now where we have a right winger, we have a right and a left winger. The role for a second striker is redundant.
Yeah.
Because if you're playing with a second striker, and a right and a left winger, that's too many men. That's too many men in forward positions. So for me, his role is become redundant. Unfortunately, that's the case. If you want to go get another Eriksen and another proper attacking right back like Walker going forward, and you want to bring in an Eriksen, then you can maybe get a Dele remontada. But until then, his role's redundant. And like you said, he hasn't got the attributes to change his role. And it's sad to see. And that's just how I see it.
No, I think that's fair. But okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to go predict the lineups or what you would hope would be the lineup, I would say, rather than predicted. And why you would pick these lineups, whether it will be to benefit your side more, if there's like a specific threat that you can pose on the opposition defense or the midfield to see if you can take advantage. So I'm going to pull up Arsenal's team that they played against Burnley on the weekend. Now, you said you would swap up Nicolas Pepe for the Spurs game, however.
Yeah.
This lineup, is there anything you would change? Would you change the formation, the personnel?
Yeah, I'll probably keep the same back four. I'll probably take out Nicolas Pepe and put maybe Saka on the right. Maybe put Smith Rowe on the left, who can float in. Then put Odegaard in the position Smith Rowe is in, and then maybe bring in Lokonga, because obviously you have Partey who can do the forward passes, but then you have Partey and Lokonga who can sort of create that still in midfield and make things tough for the Tottenham players. And then you have like Odegaard who can sort of break the lines, and then Saka and Emile Smith Rowe supporting Aubameyang and trying to create things. So that's probably what I would probably do. Yeah, just probably take out Pepe, move Saka across, move Smith Rowe to the left, and then Odegaard in there, then bring in Lokonga. That would probably be the only change. Like I said, Ramsdale, I'll probably keep Ramsdale just because, like I said, he's 2 games in. He seems settled. So then obviously this will be a big test because well, it depends on what Tottenham side turns up. If it's a Tottenham side who are full of attacking, then we'll see maybe what Ramsdale is made of. If it's a tentative Tottenham side, then maybe might not have much to do potentially.
And what threat would you, if you're Arteta, what would you tell your players to do? I mean, what's the main?
So just quick one. Where are you playing Odegaard?
Where Emil Smith Rowe is playing behind
the striker, and then you're playing Smith Rowe where?
I'll put him on the left, but not him staying up because Tierney's going to bomb down the left. So obviously,
so him on the left, Saka on the right, yeah.
Saka on the right, yeah. But Smith Rowe will probably start to float in as he usually does. So that's what I'll probably do. So give him a bit of license to say, don't stick to the left, but move around and obviously create that space for Tierney. That's what I'll probably do.
I think that's fair. So as I was saying, if you're Arteta, where are the main places you'll target on that Spurs side? Is it a midfield area? Is it a defensive area? Where are you going to say, this is where I think you should approach the most, and this is why I think you can kill them off?
I generally think the first thing I'll say is that stop playing the ball on the left. I'm sick and tired of it because we already know like I said, I can say this, but we know what the tactic is going to be. He's going to create the space for the left, give it to Tierney and him whipping balls. But I think Tottenham will be a difficult side to break down, even in the midfield and even defensively, because I think defensively, Romero and Dyer will switch on. I think the side I will probably attack is Reguilon. I think defensively, he's been a bit culpable this season. So I would probably use Saka and maybe I don't know, Odegaard or Smith Rowe sort of move across to that side and overload that side a bit, because then it depends on what kind. I think Son will probably play on the left-hand side. Yep. And it depends on what Son you get. So Son does track back well, but you do have other times where he decides, I'm not doing the tracking back duty. So maybe you can catch them off guard on that side. So I think the danger or the side we can exploit is probably Tottenham's left-hand side. Apart from that, I don't think we can exploit them. I think Tanganga is back for that game. I think he's had a good start to the season and he doesn't give you time on the ball. And I think the other Tottenham players will switch on for that game. So I think probably our best opportunity is on Tottenham's left-hand side.
Okay. And then we will do the same. Let me, once I do that up, we'll get that up for Spurs as well. Interested to see how they line up, actually, because a lot needs to change after the massacre at, what is it called? The Tottenham Hotspur Stadium? Is that the name of the same, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
No
okay.
name.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, for now.
Yeah.
For now.
For now, yeah.
I'm guessing you guys are just waiting to get proper naming rights so you can make money.
Yeah, precisely. Ash, obviously you detailed that it was more of a Christmas tree formation. So with your lineup, obviously you mentioned earlier that you would drop Dele and bring in Bryan Hill. Other than that, what other change would you make? What formation would you go for? And where would you target in terms of Arsenal's?
Do you know what? Yeah, the way I look at our team, I would change the formation to probably one of my favorite formations. It's 3-5-2,
right?
With a 3-man midfield. So you got to look at our fullbacks, right? You got to look at their attributes. Emerson is decent going forward. Reguilon is very good going forward, right? Loves a take on, loves a little 1-2, right? So for me, I'm putting Emerson and Reguilon as fullbacks, right? I'm putting Romero. I'm putting Dyer in the heart of that defense, and I'm putting Tanganga and Romero either side. So Romero on the left-hand side, Tanganga on the right. We've seen Tanganga. He can be comfortable on the right-hand side. Romero we yet to see, but I want Dyer in the middle of that defense. Now the midfield. Now this is what I would do is I would put Højbjerg with Ndombele, and I will put Gil in front of them. Now the reason why I really like Gil, and I know I haven't seen a lot of him, but from what I've seen, I really like him. Is he tries to make things happen. He shows for the ball. He demands the ball. When he gets the ball, he's turning. He's running. He's trying to take people on. He's trying to play cute 1-2s. He's trying to play through balls in behind the defense. He tries to make things happen. He tried to make things happen. So far in this team, there's no one that really tries to do that. It's just static, right? So I want him there. I love how he kind of, when he's further forward, he'll drop deep to try and show for the ball, gets the ball, he's off, right? So I'd want him in there. I want Ndombele for his ball carrying ability. He's always looking to progress the ball forward. I think Skip is, there's certain games for him. And I think depending on how this game goes, he's probably someone I'd look to bring on. Lo Celso, forget it. He's straight on the bench. And then I'm going to have Son and Kane up top. And from what I saw against Paco's de Ferreira with Brian Hill, is he loves playing little 1-2. So I'm thinking Kane and Gill had a very good link up for the second game. So I want to see it grow more. I want to see us try it more because we know how good Kane is linking up play. Brian Hill is the same. So I want to see that formation. I want to see a 3-5-2. And then obviously you've got Tanganga and Romero kind of covering either side of the wing backs. But the wing backs will obviously have to do their defensive duties. But when I look at our team, I think that's the best for us right now. Especially with the fullbacks, I need to see Reguilon more up the pitch, giving us another attacking outlet.
I have a key question. I have a question for you, Ash. And I've always said that this, and I said this more than a year ago, that this could be problematic for Spurs if everyone is fine. Kane dropping deep, right? Sometimes it's worked a lot last season, but I've always said it could get to a stage where it's problematic, where you need your striker there and he isn't there because, the wingers aren't filling up those positions. Could that be problematic again? Because obviously we've seen that it didn't work against Chelsea. I think even when I watched Match of the Day, Alan Shearer highlighted it that Kane was spraying balls from deep in midfield. And then when Tottenham were counter-attacking, there was no one filling that centre-forward position, which made it easy for Chelsea to defend because they were comfortable defending against other players. Could that be a problem against Arsenal where you know
what? I was saying this on Twitter and I was getting pelters. They were like, oh, Kane had his best season. I was like, did he really? I was like, did Kane really have his best season or were just the numbers better? I was like, in terms of his goal scoring, which was his best season? It was the season where he scored 31 goals. That was his best season. That was 16-17 or 17-18, one of the two. That was his best season. Like, for me, I've always said him dropping deep is just as much of a burden as it is the opposite, right? And under Jose, we had a certain way of playing that when Kane dropped deep, there was Son running in behind. As soon as Son saw Kane drop deep, he's running behind. And the way we used to do it, a lot of it was on the counter-attack. Most of the time was on the counter. Kane would drop deep on the counter, and then Lucas is either off on one side or Bergwijn and Son on the other. But usually it's just one of the two will go, right? And the way he's doing it now is when we're doing build-up play. We're building out from the back, and the guy's in the right left-back space. He's, coming to where Reguilon should be, spraying the ball out. I think the problem is Kane is thinking that we have no volume passer in the midfield. We haven't got a Jorginho or a Ruben Neves, someone that just sprays balls, right? Yeah. If he was playing in Man City with Kevin De Bruyne and Rodri, he ain't going to be dropping deep. It's not going to happen because he knows that the service is coming. He knows Kevin De Bruyne can put it, this kind of balls that guy whips in. He's staying up top. I think for me, Nuno has to address the problem. You can't have Kane dropping deep during build-up and if he does drop deep, somebody has to go and fill his role very quickly. And they have to be on the last shoulder, the last defender. And they have to know exactly how to play as a striker.
Do you think that's why? Because I'll put this to you. Over the summer, I was thinking, considering he drops deep so much, and I was thinking about Dele Alli in particular, because to me, looking at his attributes, Dele Alli to me stinks of a striker more than a midfielder in terms of his movement, in terms of lack of involvement in his best form, lack of involvement. I think he needs to go on the end of things because he's quite a good finisher when it comes to it.
He is a good finisher. Yeah, he is a good finisher.
Literally, if he was playing a 4-2-3-1 and you swap them around, Kane would make more sense in the 10 than Dele Alli would be.
I agree with that. I do agree with that. Kane has got a lot more ability on the ball.
Absolutely. But, okay, so a case of this then. do you drop Harry Kane back, or do you actually bolster the midfield? Because you were linked to Ruben Neves in the summer. I don't know how concrete those links were, but do you think maybe that's part of a plan to say, I need a more maybe progressive midfielder from deep?
Yeah, and it even came. Fabrizio even said it on his Twitch yesterday that Spurs are looking. They're looking to reshape their midfield. So yeah, that could be. But then that's the problem is when Kane drops deep, there's no one there. And he's spraying balls out, and then by the time the ball's gone to the furthest guy up the pitch, Kane's too slow to get back into the box.
And I think that is my biggest issue. And I even highlighted it for England, and I said, and I've always said this could be a hindrance for Kane, even him getting a move at the club. His mobility for me he's like 28 now. His mobility is just disintegrating before my very eyes. And I said, if you're going to do that, bro, you need the mobility to get forward. I mean, I look at Suarez when Suarez played for Liverpool. He would go back and do exactly the same thing. But you saw how quickly he got forward to make sure I was in the right position to get the goals or affect play. And I said, you can't drop as far as deep as Kane does and not get forward. Even Messi, when he drops deep, he makes, when he was at Barcelona, he gets forward very quickly for Barcelona to make sure that I'm on the end of things. And I think that's the big issue with Kane. And I think maybe Klaus may be looking at us thinking, well, if this is the Kane we're getting, do we really want to spend 100 million on a player whose legs seem to be going a bit and seems to be performing in this manner when we need a proper striker?
But with that, it's weird for me because those questions I think are very valid. Yeah. But at the same time, it's, if you have someone like that who has never really necessarily relied on pace in his game, he's a shooter from many different angles, from distances. For me personally, I would say, I mean, not in my club, but I don't think we really supply for him because Ronaldo's feeding no scrap, but Ronaldo's Ronaldo, he'll get goals out anyhow.
Yeah.
But with Kane, if he was in City's team, for example, with that creativity he has behind him, those questions no longer become questions because he's.
I agree.
Yeah, 100%.
So, is he?
By the same time, Kojo, you do have to realize that sometimes when you're seeing players perform in a different way, that could signal that you're not getting the same player back again. We've seen it with many players. As soon as we start to see that, oh, this player isn't the same player that it was a year or two ago, sometimes it's hard for them to get back, and we're seeing them adapting to a different type of player. And sometimes is this really the same player that we want to go for? Because maybe the game is a bit different or certain attributes aren't really in full flow game. Because like I said, he wasn't, like I said, he didn't have the greatest of speed, but he was quite mobile on the pitch. And now, literally, I'm seeing this guy, his mobility, it for me is a big concern because he's struggling to get up the pitch at even a decent pace.
I see that as well. And one thing I've noticed in his game, like I was watching this a couple of weeks ago, I was watching his highlights from the 15-16 season, and he has lost his burst of pace. He used to have this short burst of pace where he could just go bang and he's gone, right? He had a short burst of pace. He would love take it, like people don't think it, but when you watch it, he used to take people on. Yeah. It would be. There was one game against Chelsea on New Year's Day. He was 360ing John Terry, dropping the shoulder, shifting the ball, bang, bottom corner from distance. He don't have that in his game anymore, right? But I agree with Kojo. He needs to adapt his game. He needs to play for me like Cavani. Stay on the last shoulder.
Or even Suarez now. Suarez is still
Suarez. For me, I like Cavani because I think he's more kind of similar to Cavani in terms of the type of striker.
Yeah.
And Kane's his movement in the final third, whether his mobility and agility have dropped, is still elite, right? Yeah. He makes those short yards of movement, and he hasn't lost his finishing ability. That's for sure, right? Yeah. So for me, if he goes to City and he plays like Cavani, just stays up front, uses his little movement, he'll bang 25 to 30 goals a season, easy. So for me, he's got to adapt his game, but that's a managerial issue. You've got to see that as a manager. And Jose hit it very well last season. All these issues we're talking about, he hit it very well with his system. But so far, Nuno just can't get it right with him.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, definitely managers always have a part to play at the end of the day. If you see something in a player, sometimes players are stubborn. They don't want to admit it, but there's things you need to see in them and say, look, this needs to change. You need to now do this and do this. Yeah. If Kane is one of those players that needs to be told and you show him the way, that's your responsibility. But either way, look, he hasn't scored so far in the league this season. So North London derby, the record against Arsenal is quite good. You never know what's going to happen. Should be interesting. But you're going to close it off there because I know all three of us have got to run. So I want to say thank you firstly for.
No worries, man. Thanks for having me.
And secondly, for anyone that's been watching as well, thank you for watching and always like, comment, subscribe to this channel. Before we go, of course, let everyone plug themselves. So Basil, please go ahead.
You can find me at BJacobs14. I'm slowly coming back to tweeting about football after the disastrous part we had. So that's where you can find me at BJacobs14.
Excellent, bro. And man like Ash, what you say?
Yeah, man. So part of the Never a Foul team. Shout out to those guys. My Twitter handle's right there, man like Ash9, and also on Views from the Skywalk, host every week, covering all Tottenham stuff, all things Tottenham.
Brilliant. And I can tell you right now, regardless of what the result's going to be, that episode's going to be a fiery one.
Yeah.
Can't wait for that one. But yes, my also free midfield, of course, like, comment, subscribe to us as well. We're everywhere on audios and YouTube as well, including TikTok and all that stuff. So come check us out. And yeah, that's it.